In this video, I'm going to give you the heads up on 5 shortages that we can expect to see this year when it comes to food. And I think some of these we'll cover, they actually might surprise you. It may not lead to empty shelves everywhere, but it could. And at the very least, it could leave many hunting for alternatives, going without, or most likely begrudgingly paying higher and higher prices. And I'll also let you know the 4 factors that you should use to evaluate any shortage, whether rumored or real. Inflation has hit many pretty hard at the grocery store, and it's still hammering away at consumers. Extreme weather, wars, supply and demand oscillations, they've all impacted our food supply dramatically over the last few years. And this year isn't going to likely see any of these negative forces settle or decline really much at all. Quite the contrary. Let's start off by discussing what's causing this.
4 factors of a shortage. With any shortage, 4 factors contribute to scarcity. The first is actually supply and inventory. This is the amount of the product being produced to replenish supplies, and it's the inventory in grain bins, refrigerators, packaged in its raw forms, processed and packaged, or on store shelves. The math here is simple. Decreased replenishment and dwindling inventories result in high prices and product scarcity. A crop fails and replenishment suffers. A cargo ship gets stuck in a major canal, and manufacturing and deliveries slow or stop. Avian flu, mad cow disease, or something similar wipes out herds and flocks, and supply suffers from both dwindling inventory and reduced replenishment. The second factor of a shortage is consumer-driven. It's rumors and panic buying. If a consumer goes to the store and sees another person buying several massive bags of rice, beans, and ramen, he will likely believe that something is going down and may stock up as well, or he may go home and search up what disaster is about to happen. There's always a disaster that's about to happen somewhere on the internet or a 24 hours news cycle, and that's where much of this panic buying occurs. Someone hears that a plant that produces a formula for babies is shutting down, so they panic buy formula, maybe for their baby, maybe in the hopes of turning a profit, perhaps because it's simply in our nature to secure our piece of something before it is gone. The math here compounds the math before. If some scarcity already has depleting inventory, panic buying and rumors completely drain inventory on shelves. That sparks surging demand as well. Another factor that leads to shortages is actual inflation in production cost. Input costs and final retail prices can jump so high that inventories may be high, but demand significantly contracts. As costs increase, suppliers adjust and reduce output. This swells and then shrinks inventories. When demand returns and any of the other 2 factors occur, the supply chain whiplashes out of its smooth operation. As input costs of feed grain soared and mega droughts stretched well into their second decade, cattlemen sold off many of their herds while prices were still reasonable. This caused alarm in consumers, who then went out and stocked up on beef, which shrank inventory, so demand went up. Inflation also caused a rise in prices at the retail level, but that money wasn't trickling down to the producers, so many have yet to go full bore back into the production end and repopulate their large herds. That drives down supply. The 4th factor is imports and exports. More affluent countries can offset shortages by importing more. The country exporting may suffer from reduced supply and high prices because, though they may produce more than enough supply for their people, it is being exported for higher profits overseas. Production of cereal grains from Ukraine and Russia drop, and so do their exports. The rest of the world then scrambles to secure import contracts from other countries. This can be seen in natural gas, grain, and fertilizer because of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Though America produces much of what they need, demand overseas means higher profits selling it there, so inventory on our shores drops and prices go up along with demand. So one or all of these 4 factors is at work with any shortage. Keep these factors in mind as you assess any shortage, including the ones that we're about to discuss in this video. The key to you enduring through these challenging times ahead is being informed and prepared. Download the Start Preparing Survival Guide to help you prepare for any disaster. I'll post a link in the description and comments section below, or visit cityprepping.com/get started for a free guide to help you get started on your journey of preparedness. Beef. I just mentioned this one, but it's worth mentioning again for 2023. I also did a video on this last year, which I'll link to in the comments below. At that time, I warned of the high prices we now see. Then we weren't facing an outright shortage, but the signs of one in the future if things didn't correct were undoubtedly there. Hopefully you stocked up on steaks and hamburger then. If not, you're certainly seeing the high prices today. For 2023, we may see shortages in this industry because conditions have not improved. Input costs are still high, a drought still exists, and price equity has yet to trickle down to the producers from consumers, retailers, and processors. Cattle feeders are locked in a standoff with packers at the moment. There are plenty of difficulties for cattle feeders, so they have been less apt to replenish herd levels. While frozen inventory was high, it's dwindling, and cattle producers are finding only modest profits on market-ready cattle early in the new year. Replacement feeder cattle prices are driving projected break-evens to 8-year highs. Any one of the factors will launch this existing reduced supply into a full-blown shortage. Imports of beef may help some countries, but global politics and wars can impede that. Exports are also way up this year, so the beef raised here flows to the highest overseas bidder and not necessarily to your local grocery store. Lettuce. At the end of last year, the price of lettuce jumped 20% higher than the year before, and it has continued to climb steadily ever since then. A disease called impatens necrotic spot virus that is spread through insects wiped out 80% of California's Salinas Valley crop. That one area accounts for 50% of the country's supply of lettuce. This is a problem that centralized large-scale agricultural operations pose. First, they produce monocultures, or just a few cultivars of a plant. There are 140 varieties of lettuce, but you may only be familiar with romaine, bib, iceberg, leaf, and red, which are the ones commonly at your grocers. Growing such a limited variety makes the whole crop susceptible to diseases and infestations. Farmers tend to spray more harmful pesticides as a result. Lettuce is easy to grow, and I encourage you to follow along in our gardening series of videos on this channel, as this short supply will carry on into the foreseeable future. Oranges and citrus. Florida growers produce several types of citrus, including oranges, grapefruit, tangerines, and tangelos. When Hurricane Ian ripped across the state in September of last year, we warned that it could take a toll on the citrus belt that runs across the state's center. We were waiting for the reports and numbers to come in, and they have arrived. The Sunshine's orange production is expected to drop 51% in this year's growing season. Levels that low have not been seen since the 1930s, nearly a century ago. Citrus growers are also fighting the disease citrus greening, also spread by bacterium-infected insects. Infected trees produce green, bitter, and misshapen fruit, so they never make it to your grocery store or to juicers. Once a tree is infected, there's no cure. Over time, the tree will deteriorate, and the disease will destroy the tree. It has to be removed from the grove. Don't expect California and Arizona to make up for this shortfall. Citrus grows, they take time, and the drought will deter would-be citrus growers. Cereal and feed grains. It's easier to just list out the problems here. Ukraine and Russia supply 30% of the world's wheat, 20% of the world's corn, and 60% of the world's sunflower seeds and oil. Soaring fertilizer crops have already raised prices. The weather has significantly reduced harvests in parts of the world, like the United States. For corn, sorghum, soybeans, wheat, and other major cereal grains, supply in the U.S. is down and the price is up. While this has caused exports to decrease, the reduced supply is also being further complicated by the exportation to countries to fill in the gaps caused by the Russian-Ukrainian war. Cereal grain shortages are just one weather, disease, or infestation event away from a major collapse. You might have already noticed this if you tried to buy a loaf of bread recently. Corn alone makes up 95% of all U.S. feed grain. These grains are in so many grocery store foods that the absence of one can quickly empty shelves across America. Canned anything. When more people were at home during the pandemic, there was an increase in people stocking up on canned foods and beverages. This caused a rise in demand for aluminum that outstripped supplies. We're still feeling that ripple. This wasn't just in the United States, but the shortage was experienced worldwide. The top 3 aluminum-producing countries are China, India, and Russia, and some relations are strained there, to say the least. Aluminum production has declined over the years, so they were not ready for a surge in demand. This may take some time to work itself out, but you can expect odd shortages of canned products even as supplies of the food inside remain in good supply. Everything from soups to vegetables to pet food, soda, and beer can be affected. Also, expect food producers to make changes in their packaging if the aluminum supply is further threatened and as other people come to preparedness and buy up shelf inventories. Coffee. There's a potential supply problem brewing in the world coffee industry. Supplies are low and inclement weather is impacting harvest in Colombia, Vietnam, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Political strife may affect Brazil soon. Brazilian suppliers are holding on to their supplies to drive up prices. Many long feared this day, and you may already be seeing price increases in what is a favorite beverage of 3/4 of Americans, with 53% having just at least 1 cup per day. At the same time, demand is astronomically increasing. The coffee beans market climbed to $28.9 billion in 2021 and is forecasted to reach a market value of a whopping $42.26 billion by 2027. I've long believed that this industry was just one disease or blight away from collapse, and we may be there soon. While you don't need coffee to survive, though some might argue against that statement, other alternative beverages and flavorings are available. Still, it is worthy of the list as a possible compounded shortage looms closer on the horizon.
I'll post links in the description section and pin a comment below for some additional videos that you can start watching now to help you store these food items that we just covered so you're not going to be left without or paying higher prices this year. You still have time to get ahead of this. There are some other shortages and possible shortages that I could have included in this video. Things like tomatoes, champagne, rice, butter, chicken, pork, and eggs. However, I have other videos on some of those and others many wouldn't even notice in their daily life. Some of those shortages will likely work out this year as rain falls, producers ramp up production, or imports fulfill demand. I focus here on shortages and reduced supplies of goods that you will likely have in your daily diet or your prepping supplies. Your area, it may not experience an outright shortage, but you'll definitely feel the price increases at checkout. Some countries are better positioned to deal with these shortages than others. The US is very self-reliant when it comes to food, and most of the core foods are produced within the country, and only about 15% of the country's overall food supply is imported from abroad. Resources being exported to other higher-paying countries, it could be a problem for some commodities, but overall the US is really well situated to endure significant shortages. And you may not have empty shelves at your grocery store or any of these items that we just covered, but you will have a lighter wallet and experience shrinkflation in the packaging. And most importantly, you should understand the 4 factors that result in or compound a shortage. And that will really help you assess what may be in short supply in the future and allow you to hopefully stock up ahead of the masses. Do you see any shortage in 2023 that I should cover in a future video? If so, let me know in the comments section below and I may consider it for a future video. I always glean critical insight and I get a lot of heads up from subscribers like you. So feel free to definitely post your comments below, as I always learn so much from the community. As always, please stay safe out there.